And now I have the pleasure to invite our first keynote speaker, Professor Adrian Cheok, who is Professor of Pervasive Computing at City University of London. But here he came from Malaysia, where he is establishing a new research laboratory. His speech will be about every sense, everywhere communication. Professor Cheok, please.
Thank you. Oh no. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the kind organizers to invite me to this conference. It's been a great conference. Yesterday was a great day, so many interesting talks, and also Turku is an amazing city, and I had the pleasure to see the castle on Tuesday afternoon and go through all the castles, so it's a really exciting place. I used to live in Japan, and in Japan also Kyoto, it was an ancient capital, so Turku kind of reminds me of the ancient capital in Japan, Kyoto. So today, as mentioned, I'm going to be talking about how we can connect all of our 5 senses to the internet through augmented and mixed reality. There's a famous story of a samurai, you might know this story, and he could win the battle even though he was blind. And he was blinded, but he won the final battle. And this is because he could perceive the world with his other senses. So again, we should be like this samurai and use all of our senses to connect to the world and connect to the internet. But if you think about it, right now, almost all of our communication through internet is audio-visual and through a glass. Either you're looking through the glass of your laptop or you're touching the glass of your tablet or smartphone. And everything is behind the glass. It's as if in the real world you could look through the window, but you can't open the window. You can't touch, you can't taste, you can't smell. And that's what it's like now. And related science also has shown that in fact more than half of our communication is non-verbal. And that's why we miss a lot of essential communication when we're communicating through internet, email, chat or Skype. That's why it's still very different to attend a conference physically together. People still bother to travel because it's still different from communicating through internet when we're physically present. For those of you last night at the dinner, I'm sure you agree you can't have such an interesting dinner and communicate with each other if it was through Skype last night. So I believe that in the future, that through the internet, through augmented reality, we will be able to communicate with all of our senses, and we'll move from the age of information that we live in today. We basically have access to essentially infinite data. But in the future, we'll be able to not only share data, but share our actual human experiences through the internet. So we'll go from the age of information communication to the age of experience communication. So I'll start off with vision, and of course most of the, when we think about AR, we normally think about augmenting our vision and head-mount displays or through tablets or mobile phones, and that's how I started in this area, which was looking at augmented reality and head-mount displays and how can we augment in the indoor and outdoor situations. And to tell you the truth, I was in Singapore at the time and received a very big grant from the Defence Science Technology Agency in Singapore to do a wearable computer augmented reality system for soldiers in urban combat, so they could see like labels on the buildings and look down and see where are the sewers, etc. Because if there was ever a war in Singapore, which is basically city-state, it would be urban combat. We got quite a lot of money for doing the research. Now, so how can we use these systems that we developed for real society, for consumers and for everyday life? And I wanted to see, can we use mixed reality for new kinds of communication, new kinds of learning, new kinds of entertainment, new kinds of play. So when I was a young boy, I was really enjoying playing Pacman. That was kind of my generation, Pacman on big machines in the arcades, and I used to love playing Pacman. So I thought with this technology, we can become the human Pacman. So you can be the Pacman and see the cookies in the physical world, in the city streets, and you walk through and collect the cookies like you're a Pacman, and your friends who are ghosts are chasing you physically in the street. But there is a direct correlation between your body and the virtual avatar, so you become the human Pacman. So I'll show you a short video of this system now.
A wearable computer with a head-mounted display and various sensors which we have, which is sensing my body's position and as well as the head orientation. So I know exactly where I am and what I'm looking at. So when we do this, we can then augment the real world which I'm in now with the virtual world. So this Pacman world, I'm seeing it as part of the real world. I can see cookies in front of me and I'm walking through them as if I'm the human Pacman.
Now that was more than 10 years ago, so that wearable computer was 3 or 4 kilos that we built with my students. But now, of course, you can do exactly the same thing with your smartphone. And in fact, some of the AR toolkits, they have a Pacman layer, so you can do kind of same thing with your mobile phone. So in fact, the research 10, 15 years ago now has become actual real commercial products. So we've made a lot of progression with augmented reality, with vision. Now sound actually is something we often don't think about when we're thinking about augmenting reality, although yesterday we had a very good talk, if you saw, about sound. But if you think about it, the sound was the very first mass augmented reality. Before Sony invented the Walkman, there was no real way to have a personal sound. If you play some music, everyone can hear it. Once Sony brought the Walkman out, it was the first time we could have personalized sound. And so we have already augmented reality with sound for many years. It's the first type of augmented reality that we saw in the mass market. But there is still a lot of things we can, interesting augmented reality we can do with sound, especially when you think about sound plus interaction. I want to give you an example of a system which was made by one of our former students in Japan. In Japan in the summer it rains a lot. There's a lot of monsoons and things, so people have to carry the umbrella all day because it can suddenly rain. Also where I'm currently in Malaysia. And it's very boring to carry the umbrella when it's not raining. So with this system here, he turned the umbrella into an interactive sound system, a virtual samurai sword. Let's have a look at this video. So here's special moves that you can do. Now when it's cold, like it is in Finland, you can also enjoy this system and feel like a superhero. It measures your muscle pressure. And you can combine these two systems. Okay, so you can see sound, just sound by itself can be very interesting augmented reality, and so we can think more carefully about audio augmented reality. So now I'll move on to the three senses: touch, taste, and smell, which we rarely talk about when we're talking about AR or augmented reality, but they're very important senses. And touch is probably one of our basic sense. We probably developed before audio, before vision. And it's also been shown that it's essential for humans to have touch. There was a study done on infant rhesus monkeys, and they gave the infant monkey a choice between a realistic furry monkey mother, but no food, no milk, and a kind of wire cage mother, but with the milk. And the infant would choose the furry, like kind of realistic monkey and hug the fake mother, almost to the point of death. They have to stop these experiments. So it shows that somehow we, at least for the monkeys, they needed the touch more than the food, more than the nutrition. And I think if humans also very similar. If there's been studies shown that infants who are not touched enough or hugged enough, they can suffer from much higher infant mortality. So I think humans also have a very basic need to be touched. But the problem is that it's very difficult to touch through the internet, through augmented reality now. Also want to just quickly show that, related to what I was just saying, that touch is probably not the need for touch is probably more physiological rather than cultural. And this is a study of where people touch each other and in Japan and in US. And so with the opposite sex friend, we touch almost everywhere. Same-sex friend, mainly on arms, and mother, hands and head. And unfortunately, fathers get the least touched, but similar place to mother. So the places where we touch each other are common across the different countries, but the intensity or frequency of touch changes. So in US, people touch each other much more frequently than in Japan. And I'm not sure where Finland is on the spectrum, but maybe somewhere in between. But it goes to show that that the touch is a universal. So I wanted to develop augmented reality touch, and I thought at first a very good way to start on this research is to look at human and animal touch, because if you're at work or at school or at a conference, you still can't telephone to your pet, because we still can't talk to animals. But I hope we can in the future. So I made a system where you can hug a hug a physical doll which had pressure sensors, and then this information was transmitted through the internet, and then the pet, in this case the pet chicken, felt the hugging on her body through the internet. And so this was an interactive human-pet touch communication system. And next, I wanted to see, can we use such system for human-to-human communication? And we made a system which was called a hugging pajama, where parents and children can hug each other through the internet. So the mother may be very busy at work or at a conference, or maybe the children's at school. And but with this system here, you can hug each other through the internet. Not only can you telephone your child or do a Skype call, but you can hug them. You can hug them at the same time. So I'll show a video of this prototype.
The future is coming fast, and your world will never be the same. There are few things in life more comforting or intimate than a nice, big hug.
The technology is awesome.
At the Mixed Reality Lab in Tokyo, Japan, Dr. Adrian Cheok and his team are making it possible to reach out and hug someone, even if that someone isn't there.
Adrian, at this Mixed Reality Lab, you have a lot of strange things going on. I can't figure this one out. It looks like a cross between a torturous life vest, rain jacket. What is going on, and who is this?
Well, this is Nancy, my student,
Hey,
and mixed reality is not just about visuals, it's also about mixing all of our senses with the virtual world,
Okay.
including touch.
Touch. So this is a touch fest.
That's right. Through the internet now, you can email someone, you can do video chat, but you can't touch someone, you can't hug someone. So this
Oh, sure you can. No. I've seen people do it all the time. You put a little asterisk, you say hug, and then you put another asterisk, and then they know you've sent them a hug.
It's so important for human communication to touch and hug each other.
So Justin Timberlake brought sexy back. You're bringing hugs back.
That's right.
How does this replicate a real hug?
And if you just give a hug.
My expert hug?
Yes. We did a study of expert huggers such as yourself,
Okay.
and where you put your hands is where we put our special hugging actuation system on the body.
Hugging actuation system.
So this system here will replicate the feeling of where you
So it's going to
are.
apply some pressure where my hands are with
Exactly. It gives a kind of feeling of the human hand caress on your body, on the body.
Let's see it work.
With Nancy far, far away in another location, Adrian takes out a controller and transmits his virtual hug via the internet.
And then you can see that this hugging pajama is connected to the internet, produces the hug in the same spot. We can both wear such jackets, and then interactively we can have a hugging and caressing together through the internet.
Okay, so now that was a little bit clunky because that was, as a lab prototype. But actually, my PhD student who was working on the project actually now has a company called T-Jacket, and they're actually selling this hugging jacket, and it's washable, it's fully wearable, it has batteries. And the application actually is for autistic children, because apparently autistic children, when they have a panic attack, if they're tightly squeezed by anyone, it can reduce their panic. So this system allows parents to monitor their child heart rate and other parameters through the smartphone, and if it looks like the autistic child is having a panic attack, they can send the squeeze hug through the internet to this wearable jacket that the child wears. But although that is very good to do applications for autistic children, but we also wanted to make something much smaller. I felt that it's still a very long time before people would wear body jacket systems every day. If you think about it, for everyday life, people feel very comfortable wearing things such as watches and necklace, earrings, and rings. So I think if we make the technology in such a form factor, it's a much higher level of acceptance for people in society. So now we're working on a device which is a miniature hugging device, a hug ring, and the basic idea, which I'll show you, is that you can squeeze the ring on your finger and it connects to the internet and sends the squeeze message to your partner, your friend, through the internet. So it simulates, kind of simulates the the holding hands that people do in the physical world, but we can't do in the virtual world. So she squeezed her ring, and then he receives a squeeze on his finger at work, and then he also can squeeze his ring and send the message back, send the squeeze message back to his partner. So it's a way of haptic communication with a small wearable device, which is a ring. So it's a very comfortable for people to wear such a wearable technology. That video was a little bit older version, and now we're making an even smaller version of this ring. And for those technically inclined, basically it uses Bluetooth low energy to connect to your smartphone. And we also, because you can connect to your smartphone, you can also connect to your social networks like Facebook or WhatsApp and easily send a hug message to your friends through the social networks and vice versa. So you can see the new prototype which we're still working on, which is still a little bit too big for commercial market, but for research it's okay. This is the electronic circuit board inside the ring, and the next version we will make a circular flexible printed circuit board so we can reduce the whole size of the ring. And this will be the new version once we can make a circular printed circuit board. Now, one thing I want to mention is that we don't just need to augment reality. We can make new kinds of communication once we digitize the senses. So in the physical world, we will normally have one-to-one communication for touch. So you hug one person or you shake one person's hand. But once you can augment this in the virtual world, then of course you can have new modes of communication. So for example, one-to-many. Let's say let's say you just received a promotion. You can hug all of your Facebook friends at the same time, which you can't do in the physical world. And also many-to-one. So for example, a very famous pop star, I think millions of people would love to hug him or her. So we can make new kind of services where you can send a hug to some famous pop star or something. So many-to-one and one-to-many is another mode of haptic communication we can have when we digitize these signals. Now, what about another very important haptic communication is kissing. But nobody wants to kiss the smartphone because it's very strange to kiss glass, and it's also not very realistic. So we've been working on a device that can send a realistic kiss sensation through the internet. And the device has pressure sensors and also pressure actuators to transmit a KISS system. And let me just show you a video of this now. So this is our early prototype. So these two people are chatting online through Skype, and then they can pick up their small robot and put it to their lips, and it measures the pressure sensor and transmits it to their partner. But it's a bi-directional control system, so the average pressure is due to both sides kissing. So we made it into a very cute form factor, and the reason is because our first version was kind of like a human head with lips, and everyone said that looks like a zombie, so nobody wanted to kiss that. So instead, I believe non-realistic is better for this kind of application. So we're working on a smartphone version now, so you could plug into your iPhone, and similarly we have a pressure sensor and also artificial lips. And so then you can see your partner with a video call, and then you can give them a kiss with the Kissinger device through the internet. Now, I want to just show very quickly. This is not my work. This is a work of a friend and colleague in Osaka University, Professor Hiroshi Ishiguro. And the reason I want to show it is because they did a very interesting study recently with this hugging. They made a system called HugV, which was a hugging robot. And they collaborated with a medical school, and they measured in real time the person's cortisol count of the blood. And they found when you communicate with with the phone or communicate with this robot, even though the actual message was the same, when you communicate with this form factor, people's cortisol level dropped. That means they're less stressed. So the importance is that we should not just think about the logical information aspect of the communication, but the form, for example, providing touch can lead to a much better emotional communication. I'll just show you a quick video of this HugV.
The HugV is a cushion in a minimalistic human form. It contains a pocket into which you can put your mobile phone, transforming it into a physical communication medium. The shape of this huggable cushion is based on the Talanoid robot developed by Osaka University's Professor Ishiguro. It contains a microcontroller and vibrators which match the characteristics of the caller's voice, so people can have a richer communication experience when talking on the phone with loved ones.
2つのバイブレーターで6分っていうその心臓の一番ベースの鼓動の音を作っています。で、その鼓動が今度は速くなったり強くなったりするわけですけど、それは、人が話す声の大きさとか声の高さに応じて、速くしたり強くしたり、そういうふうな、いくつかのルールで鼓動を再現するようにしています。テレノイドを年寄りに渡したときに、ほとんどの人はこうやって抱っこして相手と喋られてたんですね。だから、テレノイドいろんな機能ついてますけど、一番簡単にするんだったら、携帯電話と抱ける柔らかい人間らしい形のものっていうのでいいだろうっていうので、やっぱお年寄りと子供さんとか、それからもちろんこれは親子でもいいですし、恋人同士でも使えると思います。
Okay, so to get to the last part of my talk, I will talk about the now smell and taste interfaces. Now, as I mentioned, touch and taste and smell are very rarely used for augmented reality, but they are very important. And I talked about the importance of touch, but also taste and smell are highly important senses. In fact, they're the only two senses that connect to the limbic system of the brain. And the limbic system of the brain is responsible for the part of your emotions and your memory. So it is actually true that a smell can subconsciously trigger a memory. You might have experienced this. You smell something and it reminds you of your grandmother, or trigger an emotion. So the things such as aromatherapy really can help to change your emotion. But unfortunately, it's still very difficult to communicate by smell and taste through the internet. And that is because of the fact that they're chemical-based, and we can't transmit chemicals through wires or radio waves. So that means it's not very scalable for augmented reality or for internet. Actually, there's been people who have been thinking about this smell interface for quite a long time. I think the first interactive smell system was this Sensorama built in the 60s, of course in California, where all the crazy things happen. And you can notice that it has not only 3D motion picture, but it also has aromas, it also has a smell. Unfortunately, it was way ahead of its time, so they didn't sell even a single unit, although you can find the patent online, and it's a very interesting patent to read. We started looking at how can we use smell and taste as communication, and so we've been looking at, for example, systems that you can cook together through the internet. For example, grandmother and granddaughter cooking a dish together, and you can sense each other's dishes' smell and colour. Also, for example, sending messages which are edible. So, for example, send your mother a birthday card if she's in a remote place and you can't make it to home, but she could not only read the birthday card but eat it as well, and it could have a very nice taste. Similarly, we think in the future we can have things like 3D food printers. Already now 3D printers are available, but now we can also print using food. So you could design some food on the computer and then send it to someone through the internet, and it prints on the printer. This is a very early prototype we did, which was a food printer.
Social hub which brings people together for communication and entertainment. As an extension of this social fun, our Food Genie provides a novel and seamless system to enable communication through edible food, which breathes playfulness into people's everyday life. By printing out three-dimensional edible food design through digital drawings, the routine activity like preparing breakfast in the morning can turn out to be an interactive and playful. Using a simple-to-use intelligent interface, Dan can compose an edible message. He can choose what components and flavors to include, and then send the composition to the Food Genie wirelessly. Then, the synchronous printing is done in 3 dimensions with multiple flavors using accurate step motor control and triple syringe food material injection. Multiple types of edible material can provide variations in flavor, color, and texture, providing exponential eating experiences to communicate complex, nonverbal communications.
Okay, and we also made systems that you can send a smell through, like kind of head mount display, but it's a smell head mount display, and send smell to your communication partner. Now, there has been some other research actually also done in Japan for projecting smell, right? Because if you think about it, if I release a smell here, everyone can smell the same smell. But what if I want to send apple smell to you and peach smell to you? Then we need a way of projecting the smell. And so there was some research where using vortex rings, you can send using vortex rings and an air cannon, you can project smells to someone. I think I'm running a bit late, so I'll skip this video. You can get the idea. What I do want to show you is instead a work that we've been making prototypes in the lab to allow communication of smell, especially through mobile phones. And so we've been making devices that you can send a smell to someone through the internet using their mobile phone. And you can see the development. We started off with pretty clunky and big prototypes on the left, and we're getting smaller and smaller. And now this device called a Senti, you can easily plug into your mobile phone, Android or iOS. I'll show you a quick video of this system and of now.
Is inseparable from the history of mankind. And now, 2013, introducing a whole new approach to food, tasting and savoring food with your nose.
This means nose barbecue.
How to 1, choose. 2, insert. 3, smell. 4, eat. And that's all there is to it. So, are we ready to savor this? Let's say you're a student with no money. All you need is some light rice and your stomach will feel satisfied. Let's say you're a woman on a diet. Obviously, calories are not an issue when you're dining on a yakiniku.
And you can also put them together to communicate, make new smells together.
Going out on a date. We're pretty sure this will help bring them closer.
Okay, so we actually did a project last year with a restaurant in Spain called Mugaritz, and Chef Andoni, who you can see in the picture there, one of the top 3 chefs in the world. And we developed a system that you could virtually cook one of their signature dishes and release the smell. So it's like a smelling cooking app. This was the dish that we simulated, and it was successfully released in a conference called Madrid Fusion. We also have worked with Oscar Mayer. I'm not sure if anyone knows Oscar Mayer here in Finland, but it's a very big small goods manufacturer in America, and they made us a device that you can make a bacon smell alarm clock, so you can wake up to the sound and smell of bacon like this, and of course they hope that you can buy more bacon as well. Now I have the devices here, and you can try them later in the afternoon, but I'll just give a quick demo. So I'm simulating someone sending me a message, and then hopefully you can see the device is outputting the smell. Hopefully you can see it from there, and it's a kind of like a floral scent that I will give a demo today. Now, as I mentioned, these kind of devices still have a problem, because everyone needs to have these in their phone. If you want to send a smell message to your friend, then they also have to have a Senti. So it's not very scalable. We need something that can transmit taste and smell without using chemicals. And so now we're working on devices to do this. And so we have we've been working on a device that can stimulate the tongue receptors and directly produce stimulation to produce artificial sensation of taste. So the tongue can measure basically 5 tastes: sour, salty, sweet, bitter, and umami. So it's still limited to those basic tastes, but we can stimulate those tastes without chemicals. And the important thing is that using this device, you can send someone a taste signal through the internet because there's no chemicals involved. So now I'd like a volunteer to try this virtual electric taste machine. You have a virtual sour taste, and it's been cleaned with medical alcohol, 96 degrees. So would anyone brave? Yes, yes. Tom, yes. Don't worry, it's very safe.
I must say I'm a bit afraid about this.
Okay, please don't worry. Yeah, please have a seat. And please put your tongue in between these 2 silver electrodes.
Okay.
All right, inside, in between here, there.
Yep.
Okay. And now it's off. So now I'm going to turn it on, and you will receive a sour sensation. Yeah, good. And I'm going to increase the current now, a little bit stronger taste. Yeah, and I will turn it off now, so you can see that it's turned off now. So, so this directly stimulate the receptor to get an artificial perception in your brain. Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very brave. Thank you. Let's give him a clap. Okay. So we also aim to do, and by the way, you can try this in the afternoon in the demo session. We also want to do smell without chemicals, but this is going to be a lot more difficult. The reason is because actually we don't smell through the nose. There's just a passage for the air to flow, but the actual smell sensor is the olfactory bulb, which is actually on top of the palatine bone. It's basically on top of the back of your mouth. And so we can't really stick electrodes there because there's a lot of muci and also probably be very painful. So instead we're aiming to develop a system which we can stick on the back of your mouth like those sports mouth guards, and using magnetic fields to stimulate electrical signal in the olfactory bulb and to produce artificial smell. But that's still very much a work in progress. So to finalize, I just want to say, similar to what I was saying about the touch, once we digitize the senses of smell and taste, we will be able to have completely new kinds of communication, which so at first, people will want to reproduce the physical world. For example, send someone a chocolate smell or send someone a strawberry smell if it's their birthday. But next, we will make new kinds of interaction. So, for example, a child now is very difficult to cook in the kitchen because there's fire and knives and a lot of dangerous things. But what about if your kid could program on their computer or their iPad, like GarageBand, but GarageBand for food, make a new recipe and then send it to their grandmother through the internet. She can virtually smell and taste it. As I mentioned, we work with Mugaritz and Chef Andoni. Famous chefs like him in the future can send the flavor of their food through the internet, and you can experience it through augmented reality. And maybe you can see the 3D food, and you can also taste and smell it. And also, as I mentioned, communication is very important. So if you think about it, normally when you meet someone, you go and eat lunch or eat dinner, you eat together. It's a human bonding experience. And so we can't do that through the internet. But once we can have virtual taste and smell, we can eat together through the internet, virtually eat. So to summarize, now the internet and augmented reality is very much about focusing on audio-visual and about interfacing through a glass. And let's all work together to bring a full 5-sense, multi-sensory communication through the internet in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a really inspiring talk. Now we have some time for questions. Feel free to answer any questions.
Hello, thank you for your speak. It was awesome. I was pondering about this thing that you can touch people via the internet.
Yes.
And let's say in the situation that Alice and Bob are touching each other, and then Eve comes to the line, and without their knowing, alters the messages. Isn't that kind of funneling without permission, touching without permission? And now to think, there are things in a sexual matter in the same. Is there any kind of study about this that you can alter this kind of augmented reality of others?
Yes, a very good question. So I didn't have time to talk in details, but we did a study with the hugging system, and with a partner who was a professor in the psychology department. And so for anyone who's a psychologist, the psychological tests are very, very narrow. They want to test some A or B, right? So basically a standard test in psychology is to watch some scary image or scary movie, and you can measure people's fear response, so their heart rate and their skin conductivity, because you sweat more when you're scared. So there was three types of tests. One was actually your friend holding your hand physically. Second one was the friend virtually touch you through the internet. And the third one is we told the person you're going to get random hugs from the computer. Okay. And the interesting thing was that first result was the virtual touch had almost the same effect as physical touch. So that's a very good thing to know, that we can have very similar response by virtual touch. But the strange result was that even we told the person a computer is touching you, they also had decreased fear response. So, and I think the reason is because touch actually has a lot of connections to the subconscious part of our brain. So we can affect people's emotion even if they're being touched by a computer. So back to your question, even if someone sends a touch that's not the person they think, still I think it could be increase their happiness. So I think it doesn't have such bad consequences. The scenario you were talking about. So the second part of your question was. Second part of your question.
Well, you have any research on this matter? Was the question? So you have some research.
Yes. So I think in the future we will also not just touch people you know. For example, parent and children, boyfriend and girlfriend. But already now people really like some virtual character, like a game character. So I think in the future people want to touch the virtual characters as well.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Yes, I was wondering, Has there been any research on augmenting the sense of balance?
Yes. In fact, one of my former collaborators, Professor Inami, you can check on Google, Masahiko Inami, and they use some electrical stimulation of the, I think, gland or something which is on the side of your ears, and you can get people think they're walking in a straight line, but actually they're moving in circles because their balance has gone out. So yes, you can do that using electrical stimulation. Check the, afterwards you can talk to me, I'll give you the link, yeah.
We have still time for a couple of questions if you have something in your mind. Okay, so as Professor Cheok mentioned, he will be demoing those devices in the afternoon during the longer expo session, and so you have the possibility to actually try some of the devices, and of course you can ask more questions at that time.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, I would like to thank you for your presentation and coming to our conference. And here's a little present for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Raj. Thank you. Let's take a photo too. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.